Just think about your morning. The shampoo bottle you used, the toothpaste tube, maybe the little box your soap came in. Now imagine that times billions of people every single day. All that packaging has a huge impact, right? But how do companies actually measure it? You need a system that's consistent, comparable, and actually meaningful.
I mean, it's a massive question. Is it about planting trees, using less water? It can all feel pretty vague. For investors, for customers, and honestly, even for the companies themselves. Just saying you're doing good isn't really enough anymore. You've got to be able to measure it. And that is the exact problem that standards-based reporting is designed to fix.
And a big part of the answer lies with something called the SASB standards. That's the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. The best way to think of them is like a common language for sustainability, kind of like the accounting rules we have for money. They create a framework so that when one company talks about its packaging footprint, it's speaking the exact same language as another.
So here's what we're going to do. We'll start with a quick look at what these standards are in general. Then we're going to zoom right in on a specific industry, household products. From there, we'll look at the key issues they face and then do a really deep dive into the nitty-gritty of how you actually measure packaging. And finally, we'll zoom back out and talk about why any of this really matters.
All right, so first up, what in the world are these SASB standards? Let's break down the basics.
At its core, it's a collection of 77 different standards, and each one is custom-built for a specific industry, whether you're talking about software, farming, or, like we are today, household products. Now, the key phrase here is financially material. This isn't just a feel-good report card. It's about identifying sustainability issues that can actually genuinely affect a company's bottom line.
And each of those 77 standards is built in the same way, which is pretty clever. They all start by defining the industry. Then they identify the most important topics to disclose, things like water use or, in our case, packaging. Then comes the really crucial part, the specific metrics to measure everything, the super detailed protocols on how you measure them, and activity metrics to give it all scale and context.
And this really gets to the ultimate goal. It's all about connecting sustainability performance directly to long-term financial health. By using these standards, a company can clearly show its investors, hey, here's how we're managing the risks and grabbing the opportunities that are tied to sustainability.
Okay, so let's get out of the clouds and bring this down to earth with a specific example. We're going to look at an industry we all interact with, probably every single day: household and personal products. And this industry is just massive. We're talking everything from cosmetics and cleaning supplies to soaps, paper towels, batteries, razors. I mean, it's all the stuff that fills up our bathroom cabinets and kitchen cupboards, sold in huge volumes all over the world.
So if you're a company making all this stuff, what are the sustainability issues that are actually financially material? Well, the SASB standard boils it down to 4 key pillars that really matter for this industry.
And here they are. This table lays it out perfectly. The 4 big ones are water management, product health and safety, the life cycle of the packaging, and the impacts of palm oil. All huge topics. But for today, we're going to zero in on that third one right there, packaging.
So let's really get into it. How does a company actually measure and report on its packaging in a standardized way? Because it's a lot more complicated than just saying, hey, we use less plastic.
It all boils down to this one specific metric, which acts like a common yardstick for the entire industry. And the standard breaks this single metric down into 3 distinct, measurable parts. Let's walk through them.
Part 1 is the baseline. It's simple: the total weight in metric tons of all the packaging the company bought during the year. It's just a raw number that captures the sheer scale of the company's footprint. But what actually counts as packaging?
The standard is super precise here. It includes what's called primary packaging, so the actual bottle the shampoo is in, and it includes secondary packaging, like the plastic wrap or cardboard that holds a 3-pack of those bottles together. But what it doesn't include is the big shipping stuff, like the giant cardboard box on a pallet.
Okay, so once you have that total weight, Part 2 looks at the inputs. It asks, of all that packaging, what percentage of it is made from either recycled or renewable materials? This tells you about the sourcing of the packaging itself. And again, these definitions are so important. A renewable material isn't just anything that comes from a plant. The standard gets specific. It has to be biomass that's replenished at a rate equal to or greater than how fast it's being used. This stops a company from, say, cutting down a slow-growing forest and calling it renewable.
So the third and final piece of the puzzle looks at the outputs, what happens at the end of its life. Of that total packaging weight, what percentage is designed to be recyclable, reusable, or compostable? This switches the focus from where the material came from to where it can go after we're done with it.
And check out this definition of recyclable. There's a fascinating detail in there. The phrase, through available programs. This is huge. It means a company can't just claim a package is recyclable because the plastic is theoretically recyclable. There have to be actual, real-world recycling programs in place where the product is sold. It's about what can actually be recycled, not what could be recycled in a perfect world.
Okay, so we just went through a super detailed 3-part metric: total weight, what it's made of, and what happens to it afterwards. Let's zoom back out for a second and talk about why this level of detail is just so incredibly important.
Well, having this kind of standardized data is a total game changer. For investors, it means they can finally compare company A and company B apples to apples. For the companies themselves, tracking this stuff helps them find ways to be more efficient, cut costs, and it really pushes them to innovate. And of course, it helps them respond to all of us, the consumers and retailers who are demanding more transparency and better options.
And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from the standard itself really sums up the business case perfectly. Companies that manage this well are positioned better to capture shifting consumer demand and avoid regulation. See, this isn't just about being green. It's about smart, forward-thinking business strategy.
And that ultimately is the real power of a standard like this. It takes this big, sometimes fuzzy idea of sustainability, and it turns it into something tangible, something you can measure, compare, and connect directly to a company's financial health and its long-term value. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. If every single company that makes the products in your house had to report these 3 specific numbers about their packaging every single year, how do you think that would change the design, the materials, and the very things you see on the shelf next time you go shopping?